based on the article below. Create a completely new article compared to the original article. I want the article to be significantly lengthened, with sentences rephrased creatively and new details added to each paragraph. You can even invent new elements and provide detailed analysis of each section. No rambling, no analysis. Focus on the main ideas of the original article. The opening sentence will always be a greeting. For example, "Welcome back to ABC General Hospital Spoilers Channel. Today we will learn about the issue." I want my article to be between 7,000 and 9,000 characters. Welcome back to ABC General Hospital Spoilers Channel. Today we will learn about the explosive drama surrounding Willow Tate's controversial wedding to Drew Kane and Nina Reeves' desperate last-minute intervention that threatens to tear apart an already fractured family dynamic in Port Charles. Nina's desperate wedding day intervention. The latest General Hospital spoilers paint a compelling picture of maternal desperation as Nina Reeves makes one final attempt to convince her daughter Willow Tate to abandon her plans to marry Drew Kane. The timing couldn't be more dramatic, with Nina choosing the wedding day itself to stage this intervention, standing beside Willow in what appears to be a private moment before the ceremony begins. According to insider previews, Nina will make an emotional offer to her daughter, promising to leave the wedding venue together if Willow would simply take her hand and walk away from this marriage that Nina believes is destined for disaster. However, the likelihood of this dramatic escape succeeding appears virtually non-existent given the current state of their relationship. The deep-seated resentment that Willow harbors toward her mother continues to fester like an open wound, primarily stemming from Nina's secret affair with Drew and her decision to conceal this betrayal from Willow for an extended period. This breach of trust has created an almost insurmountable barrier between mother and daughter, making any attempt at meaningful communication or persuasion extraordinarily difficult. Willow's bitterness runs so deep that she holds Nina directly responsible for the chain of events that ultimately resulted in her losing custody of her beloved children, a wound that may never fully heal regardless of whether Nina's culpability is entirely rational or fair. Willow's questionable happiness. Astute General Hospital viewers have begun to notice troubling signs that all is not well in Willow's world, despite her outward insistence that everything is proceeding according to plan. The fan community has become increasingly vocal about their observations regarding Willow's demeanor and emotional state as the wedding approaches. A particularly revealing moment occurred during a conversation with Liesl Obrecht, the sharp-tongued and perceptive family matriarch who has an uncanny ability to see through false pretenses and social masks. When Liesl pointedly asked Willow whether she was truly happy about her impending marriage, Willow's response was immediate and emphatic, almost too quick with her enthusiastic, "Of course." The problem with this response wasn't necessarily the words themselves, but rather the delivery and the energy behind them. To trained eyes and ears, Willow's assurance rang hollow, lacking the genuine warmth and conviction that should accompany a bride discussing her upcoming nuptials. This disconnect between her words and her underlying emotional state has sparked considerable speculation among dedicated General Hospital followers who believe they're witnessing something far more complex than a simple love story. Many fans have developed theories suggesting that Willow possesses hidden motivations for proceeding with this marriage, reasons that extend far beyond romantic love or a desire for traditional wedded bliss with Drew Kane. Yet this theory presents its own complications and contradictions that don't quite add up upon closer examination. If Willow has indeed been orchestrating this marriage as part of some larger scheme or plan, why did she appear so genuinely startled and unprepared when Drew originally proposed to her? Her reaction in that moment suggested authentic surprise rather than the calculated response of someone who had been maneuvering toward this exact outcome. This inconsistency adds another layer of mystery to an already complicated situation, leaving viewers wondering whether Willow is being entirely honest with herself about her true feelings and motivations. Nina, with her maternal instincts operating in overdrive, will likely detect the uncertainty and apprehension written across her daughter's features. But recognizing the problem and being able to do something constructive about it are two entirely different challenges. Nina's powerless position. Despite whatever genuine maternal concern Nina may feel regarding Willow's decision to marry Drew, her ability to communicate this worry effectively has been severely compromised by their troubled history. When Nina attempts to pull Willow away from her own wedding ceremony, suggesting they flee together, her words and actions are almost certain to be filtered through the lens of their damaged relationship, rather than being received as the genuine expression of love and concern that Nina intends. The unfortunate reality is that Nina herself played a significant role in derailing Willow's first attempt to marry Drew, creating a precedent that colors any current intervention with suspicion and resentment. This historical context makes Nina's presence at the second wedding ceremony somewhat surprising in itself, given how catastrophically the first ceremony ended with Nina's involvement. The fact that Willow has chosen to include her mother in this important life event suggests that somewhere beneath all the anger, disappointment, and betrayal, Willow still maintains a fundamental need for family connection and maternal presence during life's milestone moments. She wants Nina there to witness her saying "I do," which speaks to the complicated nature of their bond that persists despite all the damage that has been inflicted on both sides. Nevertheless, this fragile permission to attend comes with invisible boundaries that Nina must navigate carefully if she wants to maintain even this tenuous connection. Any misstep in her approach, any words that feel like manipulation rather than genuine concern, could result in Willow shutting her out completely and perhaps permanently. Nina's suggestion that Willow become a runaway bride walks a dangerous tightrope, risking not only rejection, but active hostility if Willow interprets this intervention as yet another attempt by her mother to control her life and decisions rather than respect her autonomy as an adult woman capable of making her own choices, however questionable they might appear to outside observers. The complete breakdown of trust. Nina's maternal intuition is screaming alarm signals that something is fundamentally wrong with this entire wedding scenario, but she finds herself completely powerless to either fully understand the situation or take effective action to prevent whatever outcome Willow is moving toward. The core issue undermining any potential intervention is the complete erosion of trust that has occurred between Willow and virtually everyone in her orbit. She has withdrawn into herself emotionally, creating walls that keep out not just casual acquaintances, but her own family members who might otherwise be able to offer support, guidance, or at minimum a sounding board for her thoughts and feelings. This defensive isolation raises an important question about fairness and judgment. Can anyone really blame Willow for her inability to trust others given everything she has experienced? While she certainly bears responsibility for her own share of mistakes and poor decisions throughout this ongoing saga, she has also been on the receiving end of significant betrayals from people who claim to love her and have her best interests at heart. The wounds from these betrayals have left her unable or unwilling to extend forgiveness to those who have wronged her, creating a cycle of resentment and isolation that continues to deepen. Her determination to see Michael Corinthos face consequences for allegedly attempting to frame her represents perhaps the most dramatic evidence of how far she has traveled from the forgiving, compassionate person she once was. Michael isn't just any adversary in the situation. He is a man she once loved with complete devotion, someone with whom she built a life and created a family. The fact that she is now actively working toward his downfall speaks volumes about the transformation she has undergone and the hardness that has developed in her heart where softness and love once resided. Equally telling is the glaring double standard she applies when evaluating the betrayals in her life. She harbors intense bitterness toward Nina for concealing the truth about the affair with Drew, holding this deception against her mother with an unforgiving severity that colors every interaction between them. Yet she extends no such harsh judgment toward Drew himself, who was an equal participant in both the affair and the decision to keep it secret from her. This selective application of blame and resentment suggests that Willow's emotional responses are being driven by something more complex than simple moral outrage about dishonesty. There are clearly deeper psychological currents at work, hidden motivations, and unacknowledged feelings that are shaping her decisions in ways that even she may not fully understand or recognize. Whatever plan Willow has formulated, whatever she intends to accomplish through this marriage to Drew, she has made the deliberate choice to keep it entirely to herself, trusting no one with advanced knowledge of her true intentions or ultimate goals. NEXT, we will learn about the emotional crossroads facing Brook Lynn Quartermain and Harrison Chase as they navigate the complicated waters of adoption while simultaneously healing deep family wounds with Giovanni Palmieri. The stakes have never been higher for this Port Charles couple as they stand at the precipice of a life-changing decision that could either strengthen their family bonds or create devastating new fractures in their already fragile relationship. The August disappointment that changed everything. Several months ago, in the heat of August, Chase found himself confronting crushing disappointment when Brook Lynn abruptly slammed the brakes on their carefully laid adoption plans. The detective had spent countless hours imagining their future with a child, researching agencies, and mentally preparing himself for fatherhood alongside the woman he loved. His enthusiasm was palpable to everyone around him, and he made no secret of his burning desire to expand their family immediately. However, Brook Lynn was wrestling with far more complicated emotions beneath the surface. She couldn't shake the gnawing guilt and anxiety surrounding her biological son Giovanni Joe Palmieri, whose very existence in Port Charles served as a constant reminder of the painful choice she had made years earlier. The timing felt catastrophically wrong to her, even though she understood how deeply her decision would wound Chase. Brook Lynn feared that rushing into adoption while Joe was still processing the revelation about their biological connection would send him a devastating message that he was being replaced or forgotten. She made the heart-wrenching choice to prioritize healing her relationship with the son she gave up before bringing another child into their lives. This decision created visible tension between the newlyweds, with Chase struggling to mask his frustration even as he tried to understand Brook Lynn's perspective, Gio's emotional journey, and the path to acceptance. The young musician Giovanni Palmieri has been traveling an incredibly difficult emotional road since discovering that Brook Lynn Quartermain is his biological mother. The revelation shattered his understanding of his own identity and forced him to confront feelings of abandonment that he had never fully processed before. Joe wrestled with conflicting emotions: anger at being given up, confusion about his place in the Quartermain family, and a desperate longing for connection with the mother who had made an impossible choice. Brook Lynn watched helplessly as Joe struggled, knowing that every interaction carried the weight of years of separation and unspoken pain. She approached each conversation with extreme caution, terrified of saying the wrong thing and driving him further away. Brook Lynn's maternal instincts, suppressed for so long, were now in overdrive as she attempted to build a genuine relationship with her son without pressuring him or making demands he wasn't ready to meet. She wanted Joe to come to her on his own terms, to choose her as his mother rather than feeling obligated by biology alone. This delicate dance required patience that tested every fiber of her being, especially when Chase was eagerly waiting to move forward with their adoption dreams. Brook Lynn knew that introducing a new baby into the equation while Joe was still finding his footing could potentially destroy any progress they had made together. The breakthrough moment that changed the game. Recently, something extraordinary happened that shifted the entire dynamic between Brook Lynn and Joe in a way that no one could have predicted. During what seemed like an ordinary conversation, Joe casually referred to Brook Lynn as Mom for the very first time since learning the truth about their relationship. That single word, spoken so naturally and without hesitation, unlocked a flood of emotions in Brook Lynn that she could barely contain. Tears immediately streamed down her face as the magnitude of Gio's acceptance washed over her like a tidal wave. She had been waiting for months to hear him call her mom, and now that the moment had finally arrived, it felt more powerful and meaningful than she could have ever imagined. Brook Lynn rushed home to share this monumental news with Chase, her voice breaking with emotion as she recounted every detail of the conversation. For Chase, this revelation represented more than just a touching family moment. It potentially signaled that Brook Lynn might finally be ready to revisit their postponed adoption plans. He began to feel a renewed sense of hope that their dream of expanding their family might actually become a reality sooner rather than later. The fact that Joe was warming up to Brook Lynn and accepting her as his mother suggested that the young man might be emotionally prepared to embrace the role of big brother to an adopted sibling. Chase's growing optimism about adoption. With this major breakthrough in Brook Lynn's relationship with Joe, Chase is likely feeling increasingly confident that the time has finally come to resurrect their adoption conversation. He has been remarkably patient throughout this entire ordeal, setting aside his own desires and dreams to give Brook Lynn the space and time she needed to repair her relationship with Joe. However, that patience has been tested repeatedly, and Chase is undoubtedly eager to move forward with building the family he has envisioned for so long. The detective may see Gio's use of the word mom as the green light he's been waiting for, concrete evidence that the situation has stabilized enough to safely introduce a new child into their family dynamic. Chase might approach Brook Lynn with renewed enthusiasm, presenting a compelling case for why now is the perfect time to restart their adoption journey. He could argue that bringing a baby into their lives while Joe is in this positive headspace would allow the young man to bond with his new sibling from the very beginning, creating a strong foundation for their relationship as brothers. Chase may even suggest that involving Joe in the adoption process could further strengthen his connection to the Quartermain Chase family unit, giving him a sense of ownership and investment in this new chapter of their lives together. The ultimate Christmas gift or another devastating delay. As the holiday season approaches, this situation appears poised to reach a critical climax that will determine the future trajectory of Brook Lynn and Chase's marriage. There are two distinct possibilities for how this scenario could unfold, each carrying profound implications for everyone involved. In the most optimistic scenario, Brook Lynn might surprise Chase with the ultimate Christmas present by announcing that she's finally ready to resume their adoption plans with full commitment and enthusiasm. She could present this decision as a gift not just to Chase, but to their entire family, including Joe, who would be welcomed into the process as an integral part of their adoption journey. Brook Lynn might explain that Gio's acceptance of her as his mother has given her the confidence and peace of mind she needed to move forward with expanding their family, knowing that her biological son feels secure in his place within their lives. This announcement would likely fill Chase with overwhelming joy and relief after months of uncertainty and waiting. However, there's an equally plausible alternative scenario that could spell serious trouble for the couple. Brook Lynn might once again pump the brakes on their adoption plans, citing concerns that her relationship with Joe, while improved, remains too fragile to withstand the addition of a new baby. She could argue that calling her mom once doesn't necessarily mean Joe is fully prepared to share her attention and affection with an adopted sibling, and that rushing forward now could undo all the progress they've worked so hard to achieve. This reasoning, while potentially valid from her perspective, would likely devastate Chase and reignite the frustration and resentment he felt back in August, the looming threat to their marriage. If Brook Lynn chooses to postpone their adoption plans yet again, the consequences for her marriage to Chase could be severe and potentially irreparable. Chase has already demonstrated extraordinary patience and understanding, but every person has their breaking point, and another delay might push him past his limit. The detective could begin to question whether Brook Lynn will ever truly be ready to adopt, or whether she'll continue finding reasons to postpone their dreams indefinitely. This mounting frustration would be compounded by the stress Chase is already experiencing related to his efforts to help free Willow from her current predicament. The combination of professional challenges and personal disappointments could create a perfect storm of tension in their marriage that threatens to tear them apart. Chase might start to wonder whether his desire for a family is compatible with Brook Lynn's ongoing complications with Joe. and whether he should reconsider his priorities and expectations for their future together. Meanwhile, Brook Lynn would be caught in an impossible position torn between her husband's legitimate desires and her biological son's emotional needs, unable to satisfy both without potentially sacrificing one relationship for the other. The Christmas season, typically a time of joy and celebration, could instead become a period of reckoning for this couple as they confront fundamental questions about their compatibility and shared vision for the future. The question remains whether their love will prove strong enough to weather yet another storm, or whether this adoption dilemma will ultimately drive an irreparable wedge between two people who desperately want to build a life together but can't seem to agree on when and how to make that dream a reality.